Hello and welcome to this presentation on confidently and successfully marketing your event. Thank you for East Gippsland Shire Council for having me. This is going to be, there's a lot of information, so don't freak out. It will be recorded. You'll receive a recording of this. So in your email, invariably I will say something awkward, so feel free to laugh at me. I won't be offended. So firstly, very quickly about me. I'm Jane McKay, obviously, a marketing consultant with more than 15 years in the industry, and I run my own business, Jane McKay Communications, from my home in Brewden. And if you have any questions after the presentation, you can look me up via my website and, of course, my Facebook and Instagram. And you can look me up on LinkedIn too if you would like to connect there. I'm happy to help you at any stage if you have any questions. On a side note, my kids are homeschooling at the moment, so if they interrupt, despite my instructions, I apologise in advance. My 5-year-old can be quite a handful. So I'm going to give you in this presentation an overview of the marketing elements of how to build an event. So this is not a step-by-step instructional webinar, but a method of how to think about and plan your event so that you have all the areas of marketing addressed in the lead up to your event and during your event. So I'm going to take you through the benefits of effective marketing, what is a marketing plan, what is branding and why does it matter? It's a topic I'm very passionate about. Target audience, effective social media, and how to write a media release. And if you have any questions, do, as I said, add them to the question box and I'll try and answer them if that's possible, or at the end we'll have question time. Before we go to the question time, Megan Richardson from East Gippsland Marketing will jump in and give you her piece on marketing in this beautiful region of ours. So again, I reiterate, this is a presentation on what you need to do, not how to do it. So Google is your friend there. This is a topic I really could talk about for hours, but I've really tried to keep things simple, but there is a lot of information and some points will go into quite some detail. But don't worry, as I said, if you miss parts and want to review, a recording will be sent to you by email after the event. And of course, I provided the workbook, which contains some notes, some points to take action on as you move forward in marketing your event. So what is marketing? Well, marketing to me is a way to make sales easier. So marketing takes your audience from first encounter to purchase to raving fan, and in the case of events, hopefully repeat purchaser and advocate on behalf of your event. So effective marketing and what are the benefits of good marketing. So marketing is about communicating the benefits of your product, because events are effectively a product or service to the people that need it. It really is that simple. So effective marketing explains your product to your customers in such a way that the sale is the next step. So at its core, the goal of your marketing is to AIDA, which is an old marketing sort of acronym. So you want to get your audience's attention, pique their interest so they want to know more, elicit a desire or an emotional response, and inspire action like to buy tickets, join your mailing list, or follow your event on your social media channels. In all marketing, but especially event marketing, you need to focus on the WIFM factor. What's in it for me? Why should I like, love, attend, share and support your event, and what will I get out of it? Why should I care? Because humans are a very self-centered lot, as we've had experience of in the recent weeks. And when you communicate your event, its purpose and its delivery in a really clear and engaging way that connects with people, you will have a horde of raving fans. And that sounds really simple, but getting clear about your event, what it's about, and why people should care and attend, the tangible and the intangible benefits to those specific people are the keys to successfully marketing your event. So where to begin with defining your amazing events within factor for your guests, punters, clients, customers, and visitors? The first step is, of course, research. We've all attended events, and some were amazing and some were not, and the not amazing ones generally come down to poor planning. So when you create an event, you are creating a set of expectations for your visitors, and from hence I will call them visitors. I hope that language makes sense in this context. So if these expectations are not met, we're left feeling like we didn't get value for money, we didn't get what we came for, or we didn't have a good time due to some other reason. And these expectations are set up by your marketing. So think about how you feel about events. Think about events you've been to that were good. Think about the events you've been to that were great, and think about those that were bad. And what were the differences? Some will be tangible, physical things like poor quality coffee, which is always very important at events, and like dirty toilets or poor food outlets. And some will be intangible, like the feeling or the vibe that was generated. It may have been boring, or the staff were rude, or other intangible elements. And that experience was created by the event management and expectations that were set up by them in the event that you attended. And in some cases, your negative experience may simply be because you weren't the event's target audience, and the marketing that inspired you to take that action and buy the event and invest emotionally in the event was off target and designed for the wrong audience. And so an event is an experience from the first interaction that someone has with your event to the moment that they leave the event, to when they describe the event to their friends. So what you do to market and manage your event dictates how your visitors experience your event. So naturally, you want this to be a positive experience for everyone. And the first step to nailing any experiential event is delivering on the experience your visitors come to expect from your event. When you are marketing to people, you're making them a promise. And that is the core of marketing. And if you don't live up to that promise, people feel like they're let down or betrayed even. You've lost their trust. So do your own market research of events, some like yours and some different, and others with the same target audience and different audiences. Go to events and take note of what you enjoyed and what you didn't, and ask, sorry, Lyndall's just dropped out. Oh, sorry, Lyndall. Go to events and take note of what you enjoyed and what you didn't. Ask other people why they are there and what they enjoyed and what they didn't, and how they would change things. Ask questions. So take all this experience as learning for your own event, and look at what they're doing when you go to an event and replicate the good bits and naturally avoid the bad bits. So nailing your target audience and being clear on who you want at your event is absolutely key to effective marketing and promotion of any event. So we'll go into audiences in more depth later, but first we'll look a bit at the planning. So what is a marketing plan? So it's different to a business plan, and it is often an element of a business plan. And if you've got grants or you're applying for grants, you often have to submit a business plan. And a marketing plan is a really good element to have in there, because it's basically a document that takes you from where you are right now to a clearly defined point in the future. So your event date, generally in events marketing. And the plan and the strategy contained within it gives you an idea of what you are going to achieve, and the tactics that support your strategy will give you the how you are going to achieve that. So a marketing plan also gives you and your team a reference and a guide for all the marketing activities that you are going to undertake to promote your event. And if you get clear on that and stick to it from the outset, you will be able to successfully market your event. So a strong marketing strategy is the foundation of marketing success. So if you don't have a strategy, you won't be able to measure your success. And marketing without strategy is like throwing mud at a wall and seeing what sticks. There's no plan, there's no measurement, it's completely ad hoc and random, and in the vast majority of cases, it's ineffective. So treat your event like a business. You are running a professional business here that you need to make money from. Even if it's a not-for-profit, you can't run at a loss. And being strategic with your marketing and marketing effectively, you will take your event to the next level of professionalism, raise the profile and the experience of the event to a higher standard. And when you strategically plan your event and your marketing from the outset, you'll know where to invest your money to promote your event. And yes, marketing is a lot of work and it seems a lot of work, but in the beginning, but if you invest the time to do it right, you start early, do it right the first time, it'll pay off in the long run for an easier, more sustainable event. And not only that, you'll find out what works and what doesn't, and you can replicate it for future events. So the aim of a strategic marketing plan is to give you a clear picture of what you're going to achieve to market your event in this chosen period. So I recommend giving yourselves a good few months or the full year if you have that, especially if running an annual event, to develop traction and engagement with your audience and how you're going to achieve to build an audience as you get closer to your event, because without an audience, you don't have anyone to market to. So a strategic marketing plan will also give everyone in your organizing committee an understanding of what you are aiming to achieve with your marketing, your brand positioning, your target audience, and everything you're going to undertake to grow your event. So while it is tempting to skip the step of documenting your marketing plan, you're 42% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down. And if you've worked with me before, you will have heard that a few hundred times. So by writing your plan down, you're almost halfway there. So I'm going to take you now through the process in more depth. I've really tried to simplify the planning process so it doesn't become an overwhelming task, because if it is overwhelming, it simply won't get done, in my experience, or done and promptly set aside. So the aim is for this plan to be something easy and fun to deal with, because marketing is fun, no matter what anyone tells you, and something you refer to regularly while planning your event, so that you know you are on track to reach the goals that you set. So here's an overview of the steps to a cohesive event marketing plan. So number one is goals. So set yourself some goals for your event. Sometimes they're growth, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're a shift. Target audience. Know your audience. The most important marketing task you will undertake in your event is defining your audience. Branding. I'll go into aesthetic, personality, and voice and getting clear on those. Situational analysis. So what are the internal and external factors that are affecting your event? We've got a massive external one at the moment called coronavirus. Strategy. Defining your strategy. So what are the specific marketing strategies you need to undertake to achieve your goals? The tactical marketing mix. So what are the tactics you're going to use to achieve your strategy? Measurement. How are you going to know if you are successful in your marketing? What are the indicators that you're on track? Media planning. How are you going to manage the media during your event? And stakeholder relationships, which help you take your event, your visitors' experience to the next level. So firstly, goals. So what are your goals for your event? As I said quickly earlier, are you aiming to grow your event or change your event? If you're aiming to grow it, by how much, and how are you going to do that? And what are the metrics that mean success for you? More day visitors or more night visitors, more food vendors. It might be fewer visitors at a higher price point if you're shifting focus, or a higher adult to child ratio, and put some thought into the goals that will represent the best outcome for your event. It's easy to just say we'll have more visitors, but if those visitors aren't going to be spending money with your food vendors, then you're not going to get a good ROI with the people who invested in your event in that way. So think about what are some realistic and realizable and meaningful goals that you will have for your event, and what goals will make a better experience for your visitors, your stakeholders, so the people that invest in your event alongside you and you as organizers. So first and foremost, we're going to move on to audience, sorry. First and foremost, I really want you to bear in mind that you and your organizing committee or governing structure and not your audience. So when I spoke about marketing being off target in the introduction, it's often the case that people are marketing to themselves and their peers when that cohort isn't the actual audience for the event. So you need to get really clear in your mind who your target audience is, and always bear them in mind when you're creating anything to do with your marketing. And I cannot stress this enough. So your audience is the very specific group of people you are targeting to invite and welcome to your event. And you want them to feel welcome, you want them to feel emotionally engaged, and you want them to feel emotionally invested in your event, and that they want you to succeed, because then they will want to come to your event and support you, especially community events around here. So while they could be closely aligned to you and your demographic, they are not you, and they simply can't be, because they don't have the knowledge of the event that you do. So don't take that for granted. Your target audience is the cornerstone of every single piece of marketing, media release, social media post, branding that you create to promote your event, and how you create the experience of your event. So remember, your target audience are the center of all your marketing, and I cannot say that enough. So make sure they are top of mind as you go through each piece of your marketing plan. So ask yourself, who will attend your event? Who do you want to attend your event? Who is currently attending your event? And if there's a difference between who you want to attend your event and who is currently attending your event, what is the difference between these two groups of people, and how are you going to change that? So you need to get clear on who these people are who are going to attend your event, and you can write this all down in your workbook, why they want to come to your event, and why should they care about your event. Again, I'm talking about what's in it for them. Will it get their attention? Will it pique their interest? Will it elicit an emotional connection and inspire them to take action? So what also are their objections to not coming to your event? If you've run an event in the past, there might have been some negative experiences for people that you can bear in mind, that you need to address, possibly in your social media campaign or in other ways on your website. Just communicate. If we understand that X happened in the past and we've worked to address that, that won't happen again. Just bear in mind that people have a previously set up set of expectations if you've run events in the past, and to make sure that you address that. So there are hundreds of thousands of events each year, and they all have different audiences. So how you define your audience will dictate how you run your event. Are these people individuals? Are they families? Are they men? Are they women? Are they a certain age? Do they have any special requirements? If you're looking at the gluten-free festival, that's a very specific requirement. So for example, you and I are not necessarily the target for Stereosonic, an electronic music festival in Melbourne, or whatever gig is pictured on this slide. But what about the Mind, Body and Spirit Festival, Dark Mofo, Byron Bay Blues Festival, Meredith, an AFL match, all of these events that have been cancelled, Rainbow Surfing Festival, NGV events, the opera, the Melbourne Comedy Festival, Sexpo and the Summer Nats. So think about all of these different events that go on. They all have large audiences, and think about how they're promoted and how that makes you feel. So do you feel included or excluded? Do you feel they are events that you would want to attend? And all this feeling and perception is set up through their marketing and promotion. So when you are creating your event and marketing your event, you need to think about your audience first. So get clear on your audience and be sure everyone involved in promoting your event and creating the perception of your event, because often it is a group effort, knows who your target audience is in a very clear way. Work out the demographics, their age, location, their gender, their lifestyle, who they are, where they're from, why they attend the event, why they want to attend the event. And again, if this cohort is different to who you want to attend your event, work out how and why you're attracting the wrong audience, or how you're going to shift that audience. So you can make notes in your workbook, or in other ways, you can get super clear on who these people are, and gaining clarity on your audience is incredibly helpful to gain traction, cut through, and engagement in your marketing, because every piece of marketing is aiming for engagement. It means that people are interested and invested in your marketing and your event. So get clear on your audience and why they should care, and that is a really important piece of marketing your event. So now we're going to move on to branding. The foundation of any solid marketing of any kind is a brand. And your event won't necessarily have a logo, but it does have a brand. It'll have a name and an aesthetic that your audience grows to recognize and associate with your event. So developing a cohesive brand is crucial to developing a successful event. So by creating a brand, again, you're able to create a set of expectations for your customers that they will become familiar with. So every time they see a visual or a post associated with your brand, you're conjuring up a bunch of imagery and feelings for them. So once people become more and more familiar with your brand, part of that selling to them is the familiarity. And if you're consistent with your branding, they will feel more familiar with your brand, and then the selling will be easier. So this imagery and feeling is what successful branding is. It's what people say about your brand when you're not in the room. How people recall and discuss your brand is created by you and their experience of your event marketing. So if they've had an event in the past, that will play into it. If this is a new event, all your marketing is creating these expectations, and that also is dictated by your branding. So at the heart of your event brand is its values. So what does your event stand for? What is its purpose? Do you have a mission? So you can't be all things to all people. It just is too dilute. It's not specific enough. So is your event environmentally minded? Is it family friendly? Is your event about heritage and tradition, or breaking the mold and forging new ground? Are you about prestige and status, like say the Portsea Polo, or is it about community, creativity and fun, like Fruitville? So your brand values underpin the promise you are making to your audience. They are the core of the set of expectations you are setting up for your visitors. If you create an event on a platform of sustainability, your event needs to live that promise in every aspect of the event. So again, it comes back to creating expectations and a feeling for your event. So the values of your event will dictate the personality of your brand, and this brand personality will dictate the language that you use in your social media posts, your advertising, your media and other marketing. This is your brand voice. So think about whether you're budget or premium, sophisticated or rough, outdoorsy and athletic like a venture festival, or homely and comforting like, I don't know, a knitting festival. Are you approachable or influential, carefree or prestigious? So you can jot down some adjectives to describe your brand personality and how you want your brand to be perceived in your market. What do you want people to feel about your brand? What are the adjectives that you want to come to mind when people think about your brand? So you can describe this personality and infuse it into every aspect of your marketing. And authentic marketing always connects better than bland marketing. Be different. Let your branding be its own self. So use your analysis of all these aspects of your marketing to create a one-line, what I call purposeful pitch, so that all volunteers and staff can reel off to describe your event. Your pitch statement needs to be fairly short and clear and memorable, but it can be refined into a tagline should you choose to. So for example, and this is not a real example, the East Gippsland Food and Wine Festival is a family-friendly event that showcases a range of food, wine and produce from across East Gippsland for visitors to taste, sample and savour. So have a think about how you would like people to describe your event in one line, and communicate this to everyone promoting the event, your entire team, your entire committee, and use it in all your marketing so that you have a cohesive, consistent messaging everywhere. So once people have heard it a few times, they too will be creating your event in the same way and be describing your event to people and doing your marketing for you. So while branding goes beyond the aesthetic visual branding is still hugely important to your visitors. They will recognize your brand amongst a sea of posters, social media posts, and other messaging. Now, you can use something like canva.com to create a visual brand quickly and easily, and then you can develop a range of visual elements and a style guide. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail to ensure that your brand is controlled and used cohesively against all media, including print, adverts, digital, and social media. Cohesively using colors and fonts creates a really recognizable visual brand. It doesn't have to be sophisticated, but if you're using a mishmash of colors and a mishmash of fonts, you're really missing out on an opportunity to create a very professional experience and a cohesive experience for your visitors. So be clear with everyone who is creating anything for your event that they are only to use the colors and fonts specified in your style guide to communicate your brand. And I've created this example in Canva for a client. It doesn't have to have this many colors or this many fonts, but this is around creating a logo for them. Excuse me. So this is how strong brands are developed, maintained, and preserved to have that instant recognition. And that is really laying the foundation for all of your marketing, because once they recognize you, as I said earlier, that's half the battle. This familiarity is going to make everyone feel comfortable with your event and trust your brand. So a style guide will give you all the visual elements of your brand, including your colors, your fonts, and other visual elements that you will use. If you have a logo, you can make sure that you include that in your style guide, and make sure people preserve the integrity of that in everything that is produced for your event to create a really solid brand. So as I said, you can use apps like Canva to create posters and social media for your event. So remember, when creating your poster, to include all the crucial details for your event. I've seen some that have omitted really important things like the time. So you need the what, the when, and the where, the name of your event, the date, the time, the location, the contact, and ticketing details, so they know how to take the next action. And make it as clear as possible for people to instantly know what your event is about by making it visually appealing and eye-catching. So these examples are literally taken from Canva, and Canva now do print ready documents, and you can create all your social media posts in there as well. So you can quickly and easily promote your event while looking super duper professional. And it's just, I love Canva because it has made all design equal for all people, and it's really easy to use. So once you've completed the analysis of your brand personality, your purposeful pitch, revisit your brand design and ensure that it aligns with your brand as you have described it in these elements. So you're creating a brand ecosystem that comprises every element of your brand. So your logo, your copy, which is marketing speak for the words that you use, everywhere. So your website, your advertising, social, posters, and other print design, promotional items, every single thing with your logo on it or that is created by your brand or your event. So everything you create needs to be completely in alignment with the brand that you design, so that when people interact with your event, it's instantly recognizable as yours. And that, my friends, is the foundation of a strong brand and the successful marketing of an event. So next we will move on to situational analysis. What are the internal and external factors that affect your event? So for this, I use a SWOT analysis. And I do actually look like this when I'm doing a SWOT analysis, just so we're clear. But some people perceive SWOT as pretty old school marketing, and it is, but the reason it has persisted is that it gives you a new perspective of how your brand is perceived in the market. So SWOT is an acronym. So Kelly Law has just asked a question: what are the costs around paying someone to create a logo for any event? The costs, they go from $5 on Fiverr to $5,000 for a major agency. For me, In my organization, it depends on how many you're going to need. But I would recommend getting in touch with some designers that you trust or that you know, or if you see someone with a beautiful logo, getting in touch with them and going, who designed your logo? Normally you can get around, you know, reasonable amount of money without having to go to a full-blown agency, but it depends on the strategy that underpins that logo design, how many logos are in the family. So for example, I will create a brand for someone and then they might have 6 sibling brands that sit underneath that, like I did for Gippsland Lakes Complete Health. It depends really on the cost, but on the project. But if you want a logo designed, find someone who you love the logo of and go, who designed that? And then approach those people or ask around. I always believe in word of mouth for branding, because branding is an experience. It can be for some people quite an emotional experience, especially in the case of personal branding. Or you can just go to something like Fiverr, which all my designer friends will hate me for saying, and get something done really quick and cheap. So I think that answers your question, Kelly. But yeah, ask around, word of mouth, because you want the process to be easy when you're designing a logo. So is that okay, Kel? Let me know. So SWOT is an acronym that stands for strengths, weaknesses, thought to bring up. Thanks, Kel. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And a SWOT analysis will help you understand the internal and external factors that affect your event and your marketing. SWOTs are old school, but they're really useful to get a bird's eye view of your business and any internal and external factors that affect your event's performance, its growth, and ultimately its revenue, because events are a business and you're there to make money, even, as I said, if it's not for profit. So we're in the midst of a major external threat to every event as we speak. The coronavirus has exposed many businesses and events to an external force that they could not have anticipated. So the SWOT analysis process is a brainstorming technique, and it's designed to help you understand what might differentiate from you from your competition, and what resources you have to execute upon any opportunities. And in the same breath, the framework helps you understand what might prevent you from seizing upon an opportunity. So the 4 areas it encompasses are devised to help you explore internal and external factors. So your internal are your strengths and your weaknesses, and your external are your opportunities and your threats. Threats can be market, competition, any government or environmental factors, or at the moment a pandemic, which I don't think many organisations would have had on their SWOT analysis at this point, but I'm sure they will forevermore. It's crazy out there. So next I'm going to go into strategy. Excuse me while I have a drink. Now you might not want to go as in depth as this, as creating specific marketing strategies for your event, but it would be remiss of me not to include strategy, as when you get strategic with your marketing, you really start seeing shifts. It's a really powerful way to transform your marketing when you take the time to be really strategic and know what you're doing, know where you're headed, and what you're trying to achieve. So being strategic helps you focus on the really important stuff, not the things people think you should do, because there is a lot of opinion around marketing. And when you've done your research, you will confidently know that you are doing what is right for your event and your visitors, because it's really easy to get overwhelmed with what everyone is telling you should do. And if you then can confidently say, I've done my research, I know what I'm doing, hopefully people won't badger you anymore. So reflecting on your analysis of your target audience, your brand, and your SWOT analysis, now what are the most realistically achievable and important goals that you identified back in step 1, where we quickly looked at goals. So when you're going through this process in more depth, have a think about, so if your primary aim is to sell tickets, which is generally the aim of event marketing, even if they're paid or free, what are the primary drivers of the goals that you listed that will sell tickets? So choose the top goals that will drive growth or sales to the right people in your event and focus on those as your strategies. So strategies are simply goals with a plan. So for example, if you know that specific indicators drive sales, for example, you might know that increasing website traffic increases ticket sales, you might want to set a time-bound and measurable strategy around that. So for example, by X date, our event will reach this specific number of this metric in a time frame. So by, for example, December 31, 2020, J McKay Communications will reach 10,000 website hits per month. Or by June 30, your event will reach 4,000 followers on Instagram. If you know that that is the metric that drives sales in your event. So think about what is going to represent the best outcome for you, your event, your visitors, and your stakeholders, and they will be your strategies. But you need to have measurable strategies in there and choose the strategies that represent growth and revenue for your event, regardless of whether you are a for-profit or a not-for-profit event. Tactics. With tactics, we get to the real fun stuff of marketing, the doing, which I find really fun. So before I go into more depth in tactics, specific tactics, generally in all events, the number one thing you are aiming to do when you're going through all the branding and the planning and the marketing is to sell tickets to your event, whether free or paid. You are still asking people to commit and buy into your event physically and emotionally. So who are the easiest people to sell to? Previous attendees. These people are warm leads in marketing speak. They've already committed to your event and they're ready to buy in the vast majority of cases. So how do you capture warm leads? Set up some systems to sell. So set up lead capture systems from the very first stages of planning your event, like as soon as we sign off this afternoon, to gather names and email addresses of interested people. So bear in mind that Australia has an opt-in system, so don't add random email addresses to your list of people you know, because that is illegal. Invite them to sign up to your list or you will be contravening the Spam Act, as well as generally annoying people and creating a negative brand experience. So it's easy to set up lists on MailChimp. They're called audiences on that platform, and you can create opt-in pages there too. They're quite quick and easy, templated again. So MailChimp is the one that I recommend because it's free. If you have a small database, it's free, so up to I think 2,000 users, but they keep changing that. So again, I'm not going to show you how to do this, so take note of the tool, and Google is your friend. If you want a larger subscriber, if you have a large subscriber audience, you can use these other tools like Active Campaign, Campaign Monitor, and other tools that you can use. So share your opt-in that you design on your social channels and invite people to join, and make sure that when you design your opt-in page, it is on brand. So you're using those beautiful brand elements that you created and using them to create a cohesive brand experience. So you can add a box on Eventbrite and Try Booking for your ticketing, for people to opt into your mailing list, and this is another way that you can capture emails. Make sure that the person who handles the ticketing is aware of this and adds the people who opt into your mailing list to whichever interface that you are using. So using these people's email addresses that they have given you, not only can you follow up and sell tickets again, but you can use their email addresses to do some amazing market research, which if you're like me, I love data. So by using free survey tools like SurveyMonkey, you can learn lots of data, not only about what your visitors thought of your event, but what they liked and disliked, which is also very important as much as we like the good stuff, but also where they heard about your event, so you can measure whether your marketing is working, and where they're from and their demographics, which is incredibly useful if you ever want to do some specific print advertising, Google advertising, or targeted Facebook advertising, which I won't go into today. Don't worry. So you can get all of these set up, and by the time your next event comes around, you'll have a ready and willing audience waiting to buy tickets, and half the work will be done for you. So back to specific tactics, there are literally hundreds of tactics that you can use. Don't try and use them all. Think about what is relevant and meaningful to your specific audience. Think about where your audience is. Think about where they said they found you or heard about you, and where you will get the most exposure, reach, and engagement and return on your investment, especially if you're looking at paid. And also, your time is an investment. So don't forget that, because you can really burn out volunteers really fast if you're using very time inefficient methods. So if your audience is 70 plus, social media probably isn't the primary tactic you will use, but you could use media like getting on radio and have a chat. Yeah, I can give you a copy of this page, Jeanette. Yes, to have a chat. You can have a chat on radio, especially local media. I know that ABC Gippsland would always love to have a chat with people. If your audience is older, and if your audience is children, then you're actually marketing to their parents. So remember that you may not be marketing to your primary audience, but there might be a secondary or a tertiary audience there. So work out what is the most efficient and effective for your specific audience, which you've gone to all this effort to work out in your earliest stages of doing your marketing plan. So if your strategies is to grow your email list so you have a strong foundation on which to grow your next event, how will you do this? So what are the activities or tactics you need to undertake to achieve your strategies? And the answer to this question will form the nuts and bolts of your tactical marketing plan. So ask yourself, what marketing activities am I going to use to achieve my goals? So for each of your strategies, identify some tactics you will use to achieve the goal. So think about, again, the main drivers of ticket sales and promotion and revenue in your event, and set yourself some very specific goals and what tactic you will use to achieve those goals. So every time you identify a tactic that you want to use, think about, how is this helping me to achieve my strategy? And again, focus on the money-making activities first. While you may love Instagram or Pinterest or any other fun thing that you can do, if it's not driving traffic to your website or generating ticket sales, it goes way down the list. So if your strategy is to grow your mailing list, your tactics could include regularly promoting signing up to your email list on your social channels, offering a free ticket to someone who signs up to your mailing list within a specific time frame. So think about ways you can, give someone a carrot to achieve the goal that you want them to, or take the action that you want them to take. So if you did each of these tactics, promoting your email list on your social channels or offering a free ticket like a competition, you will grow your emailing list. So if you want to increase sales, create an email sequence in MailChimp. You can do automation. Again, Google is your friend on the how-to here, with an exclusive early bird discount. So that sounds simple enough, but the key to every tactic you deploy is to be consistent. Consistent branding, consistent messaging, consistent brand voice, consistent activity, especially on social. Don't post a bunch of times in week 1 and not post for 3 weeks. You can schedule social media posts to take that time investment out of it, because the thing I see again and again in events is people leave it to the last month to try and promote. So don't do that. Do it consistently, even if you're posting once a week for the first 6 months and then more regularly in the 6 months leading up to the event. The next important thing is measurement. So how will you know if your strategy is successful? What will you use to measure? What will you measure to track your success? So for most events, this will be metrics like website hits, page likes, email subscribers, and of course, ticket sales. Marketing measurement requires tools to make this reality. You need to be able to connect the dots between your marketing activities and the results they directly produce that help you achieve your goals. So if you need to measure your website hits because you feel that is an indicator of revenue or ticket sales, make sure you have the tools, analytics set up on your site before you start your marketing campaign, so you have your baseline and you can measure it as you go. And then you will be able to correlate things that you do in terms of your marketing tactics and the execution with, oh, we had a growth in website hits that day. And being able to put that data together and demonstrate that your marketing is working can be really powerful when it comes to applying for things like grants and other funding bodies, to demonstrate that you know how to market your event and you already have demonstrable marketing tactics that are effective. So if you want to measure your social media growth, set up a spreadsheet and record your data. Don't assume Facebook's going to do it for you in a meaningful spreadsheet, because some of the spreadsheets can be a bit unwieldy. So by measuring, you will be armed with information on what to do and what not to do for your coming events. And again, you'll have solid data to present in your grant applications and acquittals and to potential sponsors and other stakeholders. Google is your friend for how-to on all of these activities, but again, it comes back to meaningful metrics for your event. I can say that website hits might be important, but they might not be. It depends on your audience. So have a think about that and integrate them into your goals and your strategies. Media. So media is absolutely crucial to promoting any local event. There are a few elements to creating a solid media plan, including media releases, social media, managing media at your event, and incident planning and managing risk. So first, media releases and how to write them. Now, this is one of the things I am going to take you through in a bit of detail. So sorry for everyone if you are a gun at this, but this is important information. So even in 2020, media releases are still powerful promotional tools for your business. If you have it and your event. So if you have a genuinely newsworthy story to share, you have a good chance of getting the media coverage. And if you don't, you won't. Especially for us who live in regional towns, many rural news outlets are crying out for stories to share. So media releases are effectively, in my experience and the way I treat them, pre-written articles that you send to the local media to promote your event. But they need to be carefully considered so you're not spamming your local journos. A media release is not full of hyperbole, exaggeration, or false promises. A sales pitch dressed up as media release, which I'm sure that many journos see hundreds of them every day. Self-congratulatory in a really overt way. You can reflect on an event and say it was the biggest ever, but don't just make it hype. Full of acronyms, jargon, and hype. Simply the fact that you're launching an event. Come up with a news hook, like it's the 21st event or the previous year was a record-breaking event, or some other way to make it just a little bit different, a little bit more interesting. Because if it's just talking about we've got an event coming up, generally it's not that interesting or newsworthy. Remember, it's got to be newsworthy. A glorified CV or biography of the people involved in the event, or the artists, for example, in the instance of music events, or anything else that sends a journalist to sleep. So what is newsworthy? Is it interesting? Is it interesting to a wider audience, or is it just interesting to your mum? Is it a first, a final, or a milestone? Is it innovative or a breakthrough? Is it politically, economically, or historically significant? Is it a human interest story? So you might have people who are associated with your event who have a really beautiful story to tell. I know that some amazing stories around East Gippsland. CRH, think puppies, babies, sad, funny, heartwarming. Have a think about how you can add that extra element of interest. Is it controversial or unusual? as a bonus, does it involve someone newsworthy? And that is really useful if you're using celebrity advocates for your event. So before you begin, you need to gather all of the information that you will need, the why, open your media, and then you will, this is what the information that I go through when I write a media release. These are all the crucial elements. If I'm writing a media release for someone, I need all of these details before I begin. So you need your why. You will open your media release with the crux of the story, the why, the boom, you know, the one thing that will actually get a journo to sit up and take notice, because they, in many cases, only read the headline. Bear in mind that journos receive 1 billion of these releases, even in this day and age, and you can come up with a way to make yours stand out. The what, so explain the event, the product, the thing that you were talking about succinctly. Is this specific? Who? Is this about a specific person or people? And if you're including people in your media release, make sure that you include all their relevant details, including their full name, their job title, or say they have a position in your committee, spelled out in full. So they're a chief executive officer, not a CEO, their organisation. When, so give timelines and days, dates and times, and be really specific, because next Thursday is not specific. Say it's Thursday, the 26th of March, 2020, because if you can send a media release and they might not see it for a while, and where. So give specific addresses and a Google Map reference if you're going to be, this release is going to be going online, and how much if you're promoting an event. Give the price, because price point is important to everyone. So how do you actually write the media release? So the closer you can write a media release to an actual news article, and the outline of this is in your workbook, but you can go through it now, to an actual news article, the better, especially in the case of print media like newspapers. So I send my releases out in Word format, not PDF, so they can literally be cut and paste. And a lot of the time they do get published, especially locally in East Gippsland. Send them to your local newspapers. Oftentimes they're looking for stories to share, especially about local events that support the community. So media releases have followed the same basic formula for many years, which I'll show you in a moment. They're short, sharp, and to the point, usually not more than 1 page, unless you've got an extended story, interesting story to tell. Minimize waffle, maximize facts. And remember, if the journo does want to know more, if they want to do more work on the article, they will contact you. So here's the format. It's in your workbook, so don't worry. At the top of the page, you'll place your beautiful logo that you've designed in Canva, possibly, or had it designed elsewhere. You'll write media release, the day, the date, the month of the year of the release. You'll let them know whether it's for immediate release or under embargo. If you're sending something in advance, or you've got a launch, and it's very few releases are embargoed, but if it's highly time sensitive, make sure that you include that, because you don't want something going out ahead of time. Headline, so make it newsworthy but to the point. I'm going to present a example release soon that you might have seen from me if you've worked with me before, but anyway, so make it newsworthy and to the point. So for example, Law of Physics Inc. discovers new light capturing device. So the big opener, your vital first paragraph, which will include a summary of the media release with the 5 key points. This happened on this date, by whom, and where it was. You know, the why. Why are you writing this release? So keep it as short as possible. So this week, Albert Einstein, Chief Executive Officer of the Law of Physics, discovered a light capturing device that will assist the International Space Station to find out more about the dimmest stars in the universe. That is exactly what you're talking about in 1 sentence. It's not going into the, it's not hyperbole, it's not the amazing Albert Einstein, it's just who he was, what he did, and what it means. So the second paragraph, you'll explain the facts behind the product, the innovation, or in our case, the event. So you'll go into the why this is important, and what it means for the greater community. So, and then you will include a quote. I love a quote in a media release. It gives it authenticity. Now, if you are including a quote, as I said, make sure you include the full name and the position of the person who is giving the quote. I like to do quotes generally if I'm writing them on behalf of a client. I will pre-write them so that they're in line with what we want to say and in line with our messaging, and then just ask the person to approve it. Don't just be making up quotes for people and then just putting them out there without their approval. And then I'll do a close with the, so the first of this device will be shipped to the ISS on the next run on Wednesday, March 25th. A horizontal line and then ends. So it's that, and after that you'll put to find out more, before the ends, to find out more, contact, blah, blah, or visit their website. So, and then ends. So for more information, you will have a media contact. Normally it's the media person who is ready and equipped with the story and the full details, and they're confident enough to speak to people in further detail. And then if you've attached an image, you'll give them the image, caption, and make sure that you get releases from people before you release images. So who will you send your media release to? Local papers, local magazines. Around here we've got some good ones like the Gippslander and Gippsland Country Life. I always send mine if it's about a local event to those two, and obviously the local papers around here. Local radio, as I mentioned, ABC Gippsland, but there's more than just ABC. Local TV, if it really is newsworthy and it's an event and you'd like journos on the ground, TV is fun. Ask Hayley. Hayley is our local star. Relevant industry publications, if it's something very specific, say we've got ZCG out in Lindenow creating amazing antennas, really specific to their industry. If they've got an innovation and they had a media release, I would recommend sending that to specific industry publications. And any relevant blogs and websites, like say if you've got a music festival, it can go on the Melbourne Music Festival websites, but you will do your research. Anyone relevant who would be interested, and don't spam the universe, be selective, because you just want it to be targeted and focused to who you need it to be. For example, the Breathe and Blues Festival, I was on the committee for that for a while, and we get a lot of people up from Latrobe Valley and Mornington Peninsula. So I would send a release to the local papers there, but I would include a note saying, I would adjust the media release to say, or often popular with people from the Valley, or often popular with people from Mornington Peninsula. Breathe and Blues Festival is on from blah, blah, blah date. And Kelly's just said, East Gippsland Shire Council events team also have a list of media contacts if needed. So that is useful. You can create a media release with the contacts of who you would like to approach and who is relevant to your event. So, points to note: proofread. For the love of God, please proofread. Make sure your release is error-free, and if you're not confident, ask someone or run it through Grammarly, which is a tool that you can use online to check your spelling and your grammar. So often when you submit a media release, the news outlet will ask if you want to advertise. So make an assessment on whether this is the right thing to do for your event. And I'm not going to lie, print advertising is comparatively expensive these days, so you need to make sure that the return on investment is there for your event. And if they won't run your release without advertising, then think about whether you really want that release in that publication. So on the flip side of that, if you ever submit and pay for print advertising, ask for editorial. So ask for news coverage, have a media release ready to go when you submit your ad to that news outlet, or have a conversation with the editorial team before you submit your ad. And if you dress up a non-newsworthy story as news, And if you want to dress up as a non-newsworthy story as news to enhance legitimacy, ask the outlet to do an advertorial. If you've read a magazine lately, you'll notice it's a heap of advertorials. They look like an article, but they are in fact ads. So that's something that we don't notice often consciously. That's another way to go. I don't really recommend it, but it's up to you and your event. Social media. So this is a big topic. Social media is, I'm not going to go into too much detail, I promise, because we have limited time. So social media is the easiest and cheapest way to promote your event, and done well, you will generate engagement and a real buzz around your event. So use your social media to educate and inform your audience, and just use one post at a time, 1 point per post. So address your frequently asked questions. This is something a lot of people overlook, and they just promote the event when it is what it is all the time. But think about all those questions you are getting asked either through Messenger or email or through your website, and address them in your social. Use that opportunity to educate your audience and break down those barriers that they might have to purchase tickets to your event. And have a think about other need to know information as well as fun things about your event, and try and generate some excitement about your event. Put some of that beautiful brand personality into your social media. So the events I manage, I plan out every single media release that I'm going to write and every single social media post in advance. So I work out everything that we need to promote, including sponsors and what has been promised to them in terms of media coverage in their sponsorship contract. If they're promised 4 mentions on social media, you need to ensure that they get their return on investment. And this is really important. When you're hitting sponsors year after year, you can say, you know, you got your 4 mentions. How did that go for your business? Did you notice an upturn in your website traffic? You can ask people things. You can have a look at the clicks from your own website and see what's happening for your sponsors to make that sponsorship proposal the next year even stronger. And it comes back to setting up those systems in the first instance to sell your event. So think about all the different things you can post about your event. The periphery events, the periphery information, like if people are going to stay, they need to know about local accommodation, and tag those accommodation providers in your posts and generate that wider community feel about what you're doing. Other activities and events that might be on the same time as your event, or the day before or the day after, all about what's happening obviously at your own event. FAQs again, work out what you're going to post from every single angle and plan it out. And there are innumerable topics that you can write about, especially on social media around your event. Just really sit down, plan it out so that you're not trying to post on the fly, and that you have a strategy from the outset, and that you really are capturing everything that everyone needs to know before you hit your event, and do it for a long time in the lead up. So social media requires a strategic plan so that you can build your audience ahead of your event. So only 1 to 2% of your audience are going to organically see your posts on Facebook, for example. I think it's even less on Instagram now, but I don't know the stats off the top of my head. So don't worry about over posting, which is something that I know people really do worry about. Aim for 4 posts a week minimum, and start well in advance, months ahead, because you can't post a week ahead of the event and expect to have an audience. All of the social media that you're doing, it's a two-way street. So the more your followers are participating and engaging with your posts, the better your organic engagement and reach will be. So the more that you post and the more interaction you get in the lead up, the more Facebook, especially because I know that's the easy one to go to for events. I'm forgetting to click. The more Facebook will serve your content to your audience. So that's about the Facebook algorithm, which everyone talks about with loathing, is the more you build up that event on Facebook, for example, in the lead up to your event, the more people will see your content. And that's just the way the algorithm works. So encourage participation by your visitors or guests by creating a hashtag around your event. For example, hashtag Brew and Blues 2021. Ask for tags and shares, but don't make sharing a condition of a competition that you run on Facebook, because that contravenes their rules. Got to be clear on that. So social media is a two-way street, as I said, and the more your followers are participating, the better your organic engagement and reach will be. And if you're not confident on social media, there are loads of resources to help, possibly from East Gippsland Shire and possibly from other resources. Jump on YouTube, there's a million videos. And again, refer to your brand personality and branding style guide to make sure that you are creating a cohesive brand experience, because the familiarity will help everyone know your event without having to think about who they're hearing from. And be visual. There are lots of ways you can be visual with your social. You can use Unsplash, Pixabay and Raw Pixel. Raw Pixel is where I got the images for this presentation. To obtain free images that you have permission to use publicly. Do not download random images from Google and use them, because it is illegal and you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. There are other stock image websites you can purchase images from, but these are the three I use the most. So you can have a look around and ask around. There's Morgfile and some other ones too. So an important element of planning your event is looking at media management and how you are going to manage the media on the ground at your actual event. Media are really important, but also accuracy of information is also equally important. So in your event planning, ensure that you have a media policy and procedure in place so that everyone involved knows what to do with the media at your event. If photographers are in attendance, you need to ensure that people are informed that they will be photographed, which can just mean having signs up saying you will be photographed, and if you're not happy with that, please let us know. Or it may be that one of your team needs to escort the photographer and journalist at the event to ensure permission is correctly obtained. This is incredibly important to protect minors who might be in attendance at your event. And this is an issue of safety, and you have a duty of care to your guests to ensure they feel safe. And this obviously depends on the type of event you are running, but you need to make sure that your audience are informed, so they have informed consent. This is also important to ensure correct information is being relayed to the wider media from the event, which may not seem important until you have an issue. So make sure that if anything is happening, if you're going to put yourself at any risk, escort journalists, escort photographers. That is the safest way to do it. Sounds over the top, but it's when we get to the issue of risk, then it becomes really important. So risk and incident planning. Your media policy is absolutely crucial in the event of any incident at your event. Accuracy of information and protection of privacy are absolutely paramount to manage risk and your event's reputation. Your media policy needs to identify what you will do with the media in the event of an incident. Now, you can probably go online and find media policy templates. Make sure that you cover off all the issues that might apply to your event. It may be that, you know, your media policy may say that every inquiry is escalated to one person, but ensure that you have a draft media release with an idea of what you will say in the event something negative happens, ready to go before your event, so that you are not doing it on the fly while in crisis, because this is when events can get really stressful. So risk is very real when you are running an event with a lot of people. You just need to look at what is happening in the world right now. What happens if someone gets coronavirus from attending your event? How will you handle that? Ensure that this is part of your professional event planning, because this is a professional job that you are going to do with your event. I cannot stress that enough. So the serious stuff is over. On to the last point of your strategy marketing plan. So relationships. You're never marketing an event, especially a regional event, in isolation. Well, we're in isolation at the moment. What I mean is in a vacuum. So take a look around at the peripheral services your visitors can use while attending your event, or other places they can go to enhance their experience a little bit further. Because remember, I go back to the beginning of this presentation, events are experiences. So have a think about what is important to your audience. Coffee is always very important. Where are they coming from, and what other things can they do while they are here? So Fromage à Trois, which has been postponed, which is a cheese festival at Werribee Mansion, did this really well. They were offering cheese and accommodation at the Werribee Mansion, cheese and spa experiences, cheese and Werribee Zoo tickets. They looked around their event and thought about all the ways they could partner with other businesses in the area to make their visitors' experience even more amazing. And there is so much to do here in East Gippsland. So think about accommodation, food, activities, and experiences. For example, Brew and Blues Festival could arrange a bus on the Sunday, which is the quiet day, to go to the Buchan Caves, or Events in Paynesville could arrange a discount on Ride the Koalas. Meetung Food and Wine, or Feast on East now, could make a special deal with Riviera Nautic for a day on the lakes on the Saturday if the event's on the Sunday. So think about outside the box and about your audience, which you've done so much work on working out. So if they're from the city, partner with a place and have a farm stay. Or if your audience are foodies, arrange a sourdough making day. There are a couple of places around here that do that. The day after or before your event to extend their stay in the region. So together, each and every one of you has the opportunity to make your event of higher value to your visitors and the wider community, which is really what we need right now. And it's a win-win for everyone involved. So growing your event, oh, we're nearly there. There comes a time in the life cycle of every event where the organisers, be that a committee or individuals, are exhausted, or the event has outgrown what they can manage, and the thought of doing the event is, quite frankly, overwhelming. I get it. I have been there. What do you do in those circumstances? And what if you don't want to grow the event, or your audience isn't who you want them to be, or the event isn't financially sustainable, and the blood, sweat and tears of the volunteers is no longer going to cut it? So you have options. First, breathe. Change your focus to another audience and completely overhaul your marketing with your new audience in mind, and using the tools that you've been given today. If your event is struggling financially, have a good hard look at where you invest your money through the lens of running a business. Change the event to be more premium, charge more, or take out areas of investment that aren't viable. Work out the nice to haves from the necessities. You know, you need to work out what it is your audience are there for and focus on that. So change the format of the event. If it's a 2-day event, make it a 1-day event. If it's an evening event, change it to daytime, which will change your audience. And Jeanette might have more to say about this at the end. So you can rest the event. If it's an annual event, you can take a year off. You can still focus on growing your email list and your social media while you have that year off, but you don't have to run an event every year, especially if you have grown your marketing channels, so that you have a foundation upon which to grow next year. Find a stakeholder to run it for you. So in the case of the Meetung Food and Wine Festival, my sister and I gave it to the Shire, who works with Food and Fibre Gippsland, to do an amazing job of growing the event in a way we simply couldn't manage on our own. And now we get to sit and drink wine all afternoon. So they are all the things that you can consider when you are thinking about how do you want your event to look next time. So that is it for the really intense part of the presentation, and I'm going to hand over to Hayley. Do you want to come on, Hayley? I'll turn off the share, and Hayley's going to talk more about what East Gippsland Marketing can help you with.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks. It's not like, I think you've done an amazing job, and I'm just trying to think of all, not the little I can add to that. For those who don't know me, my name's Hayley. I am the marketing manager for East Gippsland Marketing. We are the regional marketing body for East Gippsland. We work really closely with the East Gippsland Shire and with Destination Gippsland, and I think Janine's going to talk a little bit after me. So in terms of events, what we do, I guess they're really, really key to some of the things that EGMI do, or East Gippsland Marketing, because they draw visitation into the region. So for us, it's really important that we have visitors here, because long term they draw people to come and live here, and that's really key to our goals. So how we can help events. One way we can really help is when you're setting up an event, as Jane explained, when you put an event on social media, on Facebook or Instagram, when you set that up on your page, as say with the Me Tongue Food and Wine Festival, if you've set that up and you put an event on Facebook and you've got the date and all the rest of it, normally, because we run the Love East Gippsland social media page, which has 18,000 followers, we can then share your event. And that obviously increases the amount of people who can see that your event's on. And we've got a really clever person in the background who runs our social media page, and then can create all the hashtags and bits and pieces, and pushes that out to a wider audience. So that's really handy, but it really is quite important that you set up that event on social media first, so that he can share it out. It really is handy if you've got lots of interesting photos and a long strategy in place, like Jane said, that goes for a couple of months in place, so we can have that lead up with our followers as well, because it does reach quite a wide audience that way. We also have quite a big media outlet reach as well, I should say. So we write a lot of media releases as well. So if you do need someone to proofread your media release, I am happy to do that. And also, if you've got a really interesting event coming up, something that will really encourage people to come down into East Gippsland, it is potentially something that we would push into the Melbourne metropolitan audience too. So we can reach quite a strong media audience. We've got some really big connections, so happy to help you on that front. By all means, send me the details, and we can work with you on some of those things. Like I said, we work really closely with Destination Gippsland, and I'm sure Janine will talk about this, but we always recommend to every event to list their event on the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse, or ATDW. This helps your event get visibility across Visit Victoria, Tourism Australia, and Destination Gippsland. So that then, if you're living in Melbourne and you're thinking, geez, I'd really love to come down to East Gippsland, but I don't know what's on, then all of a sudden up pops the Me Tongue Food and Wine Festival, Brew Them Blues. They're like, oh, great. Now I know what's on. I'll book my holiday, I'll book my accommodation, and I'll book whatever else. So suddenly we get all these other visitors there because you've listed your event on that Australian Tourism Data Warehouse. There's thousands of people that will see that event. It also brings up that possibility of Visit Victoria putting it on their social media page, Tourism Australia putting it on their electronic mail, which obviously goes to, I think it's like 2 million people or something crazy. So please, if there's one thing that you do, put your event on that website. It's free and it's an absolute must do. Yeah, I think that's probably it from me. I think along with all the other things Jane has mentioned, which are absolutely valuable, and I think we can have some really great events running. So yeah, that's probably all from me. But please get in touch.
Janine, would you like to speak now? Oh, I'll unmute you. There you are.
No, I've unmuted myself. Thanks very much, Jane. Great presentation, and some really solid ideas there for everyone to take home. I could probably only reiterate what Hayley said is the importance of an ATDW listing. It will get you on Visit Gippsland, which gets you on Visit Victoria and then Tourism Australia. It is free. There's a helpline that's associated with it. Luke has a couple of staff. So if you're having trouble with your listing, just give them a call or email them. So we'll make sure that that link goes out somehow or other, Jane. But that's certainly one of the things. Obviously, we do a lot of PR and media, so if we know about the event. One of the things, and I did have to step in and out a couple of times. I had some urgent phone calls that came in while I was listening to what was being presented, and please excuse if I've said something you've already said, Jane. But one of the things, especially with ATDW and listings, is it's really important to have quality imagery. And that's something that's a feature of events. So we really encourage people to, if you're going to upload a photo of your event, don't upload the back of people's heads. Don't upload, you've got to be really vibrant and positive with your imagery. And I think that helps to sell the event. And obviously there's an opportunity if you are needing to get hold of imagery of Gippsland and you don't have current imagery of the surrounding area. There's a thing called the Content Hub, which is hosted by Visit Victoria, so you can access a lot of imagery through that can support your event in the things that Jane was talking about when you have linkages to other activities. So don't be afraid to use all these resources that are free. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no ownership of those photos. Destination Gippsland does a lot of photo shoots over the period of a year when we're operational, and we certainly make those readily available. So if you're looking for a really nice shot, and obviously if your event, you want to be posting imagery that's in your area so that it's authentic to where your event's being hosted. But there's certainly some imagery out there that's useful for you. The other thing is to look at how, from my point of view, it's to look at when are you hosting your event? Is it already in the peak time? Have a look at the calendar and see whether there's a need. When Jane said if your event's looking a bit tired or you're a bit tired and you think of revamping it, maybe it's just a date change and a whole aspect around, is that a seasonal thing? Are you pushing it out to a time when there's not other events on, and that's going to give some reinvigoration to your event? Around what we're currently doing, Destination Gippsland as an organisation, we're in the background working on the streams and the grants for the upcoming streams that are out there. We're conscious that events need a lot of marketing, so we're pushing to look at that aspect so that we can get marketing funds to promote a whole range of events. And I think the other side of things is, if there's an opportunity for an event to grow, have a look at whether it can be expanded into that 2-day event. What's going to bring visitors to the region and get them to stay that extra night? Don't be afraid either of dovetailing in with like-minded events across all of Gippsland. Contact other event organisers in South Gippsland and Baw and Latrobe and Wellington, and see what they're doing in Bass Coast. How can you work in with an event that's currently, if it's a coastal event, it might be something that you can work in with the Whale Festival. If it's another type of festival that has some linkages across the region, it's always a good opportunity to leverage off what's in region and what you can do to get the word out. The whole of the parts is stronger than the piece on its own. So we're always encouraging people to work across the region together. So that's it from me, but congratulations to everyone who's online learning more and trying to present the best events they can for Gippsland, and we look forward to working with you down the track. Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Hayley and Jeanette and Kelly and everyone. I'll mute myself now.
Thanks, Janine. Jeanette, would you like to speak? Or Kel? We're waiting for Jeanette. I don't know. Oh, here she is.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello. So what I want to say, oh, can you see me? Oh, there you go. You're just going to have to look to me. So I wanted to thank everyone today for dialing in, and I wanted to thank for our speaker, Jane McKay, for doing an excellent presentation, and Janine and Hayley for adding their bits too. One of the things we'll have, if we can go to questions, but I have to go, so I'm going to just remind everyone that we do have another workshop on the 15th of April with Jodie Wilmer from Happy Change Makers on finance and budgeting. So hopefully you've got something out of today, and that we will continue to do these workshops over the next few months on Zoom, and that it's a useful tool, and that we'll grab all the links that everyone's talked about today and we'll send them out. But I'll hand it back over to Jane. Thank you. If you've got any questions for Jane, and if there's any questions from the events team, I'll leave that with Kelly, who's here too, and she can get back to you about that. So thank you, everyone, and talk to you all soon. Bye.
Thanks, Jeanette. So does anyone have any questions? I know that was a rather large amount of information to take out in a reasonably short amount of time. So you can unmute yourself and ask directly, or go on video and ask me. And anybody? Where do I get a workbook? That was shooted out in the email. There was a PDF that was attached to the email. Or I can email it to you, or we can attach it to the follow-up email. So from Kim and Matt, what would you suggest if your event outgrows your location and no other suitable locations exist due to less drive by traffic? How do we manage that? The gem show. Yes, I've driven past that. I would suggest, Kelly might have something to say about this, talking to either East Gippsland Marketing or the Shire, because they know all the events, all the venues that are around the place. It might be, you just simply go to another venue in the area that they will know about more, obviously, than me. There you go. Kelly said she'll email you to discuss location ideas. And Kelly's re-emailing the workbook. I think we'll put all the links in the workbook again, in as well as the link to the recording in the follow-up email. So has anyone else got any questions? No? And as I said, here's my contact details, including my email. So you can either contact me or Kelly at the Shire or Hayley if you want to know more. And I also run a DIY marketing program for everyone who is a marketing enthusiast out there like me. There's a link on my website. Jeanette said this was fine, by the way. So this program goes into even more depth, over 17 modules, and this program is usually $397. But if you use the coupon code EGSC at the checkout, you'll get $50 off. So can you get support as you're looking through the workbook? Sure, Christine, you can. The alternative to that is listening to all of this again. But you know where I am, Christine. You know where to find me. So that's it. If no one else has any questions, that's it for today. I really thank everyone for coming online and being understanding about having to go digital. And if you want to know anything more, there's my website. And don't miss Jodie's presentation that is coming up on the 15th of April about managing your money, budgets and grants for your events at 1 o'clock on Zoom, again with Jodie from Happy Change Makers. So I hope everyone got some value out of that, and I'll see you at the next presentation.